Now that your track table is built, you're ready to attach the track and table to your miter saw. To do that, take the hinge, set up the special hinge, and you take the pin out and take the half that has the 3 prongs on it, and we mount that to your miter saw. To make this work, we add a 1/8 inch shim to the hinge on both sides. Without that shim, this will not work. So with that in mind, you mount this piece of the hinge to your saw, and to do that, you may need to drill more holes in it so you have the holes in the right locations for your saw. As you can see, I've already mounted mine to the saw. Now when you mount it, it's very important that you get the height correct. So if you have a 3/4 inch table, if you're 3/4 inch plywood, let's say, plus you have this 1/8 shim, so this needs to be 3/4 plus 1/8, which would be 7/8. The top of this hinge needs to be 7/8 inch below the surface of the saw. To make that easier to get the right location, I take a block of wood, and this is my table saw table setup thickness with 3/4 of an inch plus 1/8 of an inch shim, and I set it here, and I push my hinge piece up against my table, and then I know that's exactly where I need to drill my holes. Now to keep that there, what I do, it makes it a little easier, is I use a welder's clamp, and I actually clamp the hinge there so I can mark my holes or drill my holes. But either way, you need to hold that there and then come back and mark your holes where you're going to drill to bolt it to the saw. Now that half of your hinge is bolted to the saw, you're ready to bolt the other half of the hinge to the table. And the way you do that, you put the other half of the hinge, connect it in and put the pin in, and then you bring the table to the saw, and you line up the fences. I use a level, or you can use any straight edge you have to make sure they're aligned properly. And then once they are, you're happy with it, you hold the hinge up underneath, and then while you're holding it up, you mark the 4 holes where you're going to drill through the plywood. Again, after you drill the holes for the hinge, you need to drill a hole on the T-nut side a little bit larger so the shaft of the T-nut fits. You need to put the T-nuts in the holes, and you need to pound them in so they're even with the surface of the wood. After your holes are drilled, you put this half of the hinge on the plywood, put the bolts through to reach the T-nuts, and you tighten the bolts down to the T-nuts. Now that the other half of the hinge is securely bolted to the table, you can connect the table to the saw. So to do that, you lift the table up and align the fences up. Come forward, align the fences up, and then put the pin in. And that connects them together. They're lined up and they're together. To remove it, to tear down the job site, you simply pull a pin, take the table away, and you're ready to go. So we put it back, line the fences up, drop it in, put the pin in, you're done. It lines up. Now we're going to install the tape measure on the back fence. And the AcroStop sets on the track, slides up and down the track, and these pointers point to the track. So you want the tape measure on the track, and now I'm going to show you how to do that. To start the tape install process, the first thing to do is cut a piece of stock 16 inches long. Take a regular tape measure, make sure your tape measure is not bent at the ends because you want this to be an accurate measurement. So check it out, there are 16 inches. Now move the AcroStop down to the board. You put the board right at the blade, put the blade all the way down, put the board right to it, hold it firmly, and now slide the acrostop to it. When you slide the acrostop to it, make sure you have 3/8 of an inch of thread showing on each end, because you'll need that room to make your final adjustments. Then lock up the acrostop so it stays there. Now you know this point right here is 16 inches, because this acrostop right now is cutting a piece of block that's 16 inches long. You know that by using your tape measure. So right now, if there was a tape here, it should be pointing at 16 inches. So we're going to put our tape measure across here, and we're going to have a 16-inch mark right here. We use 12-foot long tape measures, so you can have your table 8 feet, 10 feet, or 12 feet long. And these tapes, they read out to the right side of the saw or the left. This is an R, so this is for the right side of the saw. This is the tape we'll be using. So now I have the tape measure laying on the aluminum angle, and I have the tape measure lining up with a 16-inch mark on this side of the metal pointer. I have extra tape measure obviously here, so I'm going to cut it off, the extra off at each end now. Now that I have the tape measure in place and I have the extra tape measure cut off of both ends, now I'm ready to stick the tape measure to the track in the appropriate location. Remember, I have a 16-inch board that goes to the blade. That's what the board just cut. The stop's against the 16-inch board, and the pointer's pointing at 16 inches on the tape. So now I'll start removing the stickies from the back and start sticking the tape to the track. Now that it's all done, the tape's in the right location and stuck down good, we can test it. So let's try 12 inches. I'll move it up to 12 inches. Right there, lock it up, cut it, measure it. 12 inches. It's right on the money.